Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Justice League review on the One Take Podcast channel here. Now, I just saw this film actually at an early fan screening on Monday, November 13th. I was lucky enough to get passes thanks to WarnerBrosScreenings.com. I honestly didn't think I was going to make it, but I actually saw the film on Monday. I managed to see it early than everybody else has, which is quite the honor, and I'm happy that Warner Bros. Hosted this event, and I want to thank them as well for getting the fans to see the film early, to those who managed to make the attendance, and just to put out free screenings for everybody. So I want to thank Warner Bros. For that. And I had a great time. I went with my two friends, Brian and Richard, and I went with my sister, Cassidy. And it was a great time at the movies. So thank you again, Warner Bros., for hosting this event. And now let's get to talking about Justice League. When I first heard about this movie coming out, I was initially excited because it was a Justice League film. I was a huge fan of the animated series on Cartoon Network back then. I was a big fan of like pretty much any DC show that was on. Then I saw some of the recent DC films like Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and I wasn't really the biggest fan of those films whatsoever, unfortunately, because I felt with BVS, for example, I thought they squished in a little too much for what could have been an already good film. Like, they had a little too many storylines, in my opinion, and it was weirdly edited in a way. With Suicide Squad, I thought it was the same thing. Like, it was just very jumbled, and I didn't really catch on what was going on the screen. Like, I mean, it was a little more cohesive than Batman v Superman was, but at least Batman v Superman had some interesting visuals. I thought the story was at least interesting in some ways, like what would happen if Superman was considered a vigilante in this world, what would happen if he was considered a fugitive for some. And I just thought it was an interesting storyline compared to Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad was pretty much an end of the world type situation, which we've seen already a million times, and it's the same thing here in Justice League, but with Suicide Squad I feel like they didn't execute it as well, and I thought there was a lot of more problems I had with that film than I did with BVS. Batman v Superman had the Ultimate Cut that was released recently, and I did think that helped with the film a lot more because it definitely expanded on storylines more and it was better paced, in my opinion. I still thought some of the problems I had with the theatrical cut were still present in the Ultimate Cut, but I did notice improvement. And going into Justice League, I was a bit worried because there was so much controversy happening with the whole Joss Whedon, Zack Snyder thing going on, with the whole like fans like saying they love BVS or they hate BVS. They say Justice League's gonna suck because the other movies sucked. Except for Wonder Woman, which I do have to mention. Wonder Woman was actually a great movie in my opinion. It's actually one of my favorites this year, and I was pleasantly surprised by that film. I didn't know what to expect from it when I went to that one too, but I was really happy with that result of Wonder Woman, and it gave me a bright hope that maybe Justice League could be good. I didn't want Justice League to be bad. In fact, I wanted it to be good because DC has been struggling lately, in my viewpoint, with the whole universe setup and stuff like that. So going into Justice League, I had my worries, but I was also really excited to see what they could pull off. And I'm happy to say Justice League is actually a really good movie. Is it perfect? No. It's definitely not perfect. There are some problems I will get into here in the review. But with all that said, I was really happy with the end result. I had a good time at the movie house watching Justice League. And I'm just happy in general that DC finally found its footing for once, in my viewpoint. And it's exciting now to see these characters given the love they have in this film, and it makes me hopeful in the future films they have, hopefully in the future. That sounded weird because I just pretty much corrected myself there. But I was really happy with it overall. And now let's get into some of the things I really liked about it. Firstly, the Justice League itself. The League itself had great chemistry with each other, and they had great lines to prove to each other, and they even had some humor injected into it, mainly for Flash, and we'll get into him for a minute. But I thought everybody did a fantastic job with the chemistry overall, and it made me really happy to see these characters together at once, because this is technically the first Justice League movie we're getting with them, at least most of them all together, and the end result really made me happy to see them together. And with that said, let's get into Batman himself. Ben Affleck portrayed Bruce Wayne Batman in Batman v Superman for the first time. He was actually one of the main parts I really liked in that movie. I personally enjoyed his Batman. It was a much more darker and grittier Batman than I've seen before. Like, I know people have said regarding to Ben Affleck as Batman, like saying, oh no, it's Ben Affleck, he's gonna suck because he was Daredevil and he made that movie suck. Listen, I don't think Ben Affleck was bad in this role at all. Ben Affleck as Batman, to me, was a really good Batman, and I do think he's actually up there, in my opinion, with Michael Keaton. And honestly, in my opinion, I think he's better than Christian Bale. That's just me though, because I really liked the way they portrayed his Batman in BVS and in Justice League now. And with BVS, they really set the tone for Batman. Like, you know, he's not a perfect guy in a way, but when you see him as Batman in the fight sequences, oh my god, the warehouse scene in BVS was one of my favorite scenes for Batman in general. It reminded me a lot of the Batman Arkham video games, because it was just so fast paced, but you could still tell what was going on. Bone cracking, people getting stabbed and shot. It was insane with that warehouse sequence in BVS. And with Justice League, they humanized his character a little bit more in this one, and I still think Ben Affleck did a great job doing his part as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. He has some really great scenes, in my opinion, with Wonder Woman. I actually really liked their chemistry a bit in BVS. They had a little bit of chemistry there. It wasn't fully expanded in that film, but I could sense something there. In this film, they actually have a little bit more scenes together, and it actually made me happy that they were together, because I really liked Batman's and Wonder Woman's chemistry together. And speaking of Wonder Woman, let's get into Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot was one of my favorite parts of the BVS as well. I think she did a kick-ass job in that film, and she definitely did a kick-ass job in her movie. And I do think in this movie she's just as great in those previous two movies she's done before. She's pretty much the same as you expect. She's very hopeful. She's very alive. She's like almost the team leader in a way, almost, because and there's a scene in the movie where Batman and Wonder Woman are actually talking about leadership, and Batman sometimes questions himself whether or not he can lead this team into battle, and he thinks that Wonder Woman is actually a better fit for the job than he is, in a way. I don't think that's really a spoiler, by the way. It's a pretty minor scene to a big epic movie like this. So I was really happy with what they did here. And Wonder Woman is definitely one of my favorite characters in this DC universe so far, and I'm very happy with her portrayal in Justice League as well. And next we have The Flash. Yes, The Flash we have as Ezra Miller portraying as Barry Allen, aka The Flash. I thought he did a really good job with The Flash here. I've seen The Flash done before, like in the live action spectrum with the DC TV show The Flash on CW, and Grant Gustin, in my opinion, is the best Flash to me, because I think my friend Brian actually pointed this out, because me and Brian are both fans of the Flash TV show, and for me, I think Grant Gustin has the emotion put down on that character while also having the humor in it. That's not to say Ezra Miller wasn't great as Flash. I think Ezra Miller did a very good job at Flash, but his character here was mostly the comic relief. I didn't think they really gave him too many emotional scenes like with some other characters in this film. But I do think Ezra Miller's Flash has potential to be amazing, and I am very excited to see his Flashpoint movie coming together soon, and I hope that delivers because Flashpoint is a huge event in the DC spectrum, very huge, and I'm very excited to see what he can pull off as the Flash. Next up, we have Aquaman. Yes, Aquaman was in this movie in the first time he's been portrayed in live action. Anything, honestly. Like, I don't think he's been portrayed in the TV shows or in any of the movies until now with this DC universe. Jason Momoa as Aquaman, I honestly thought he did a really good job too. I wasn't really looking forward to this character, honestly, because Aquaman in general kind of sounds a bit lame to me, in my opinion. I mean, I get some people like him. I know some friends that like him personally, but I am not really the biggest fan of Aquaman in general with his character biography. But in this film, I was really happy with his portrayal as Aquaman, and I do think Jason Momoa has the potential to do bigger things with his movie coming up next year. And this definitely shows, like, it makes me very hopeful on his film coming up with James Wan. James Wan, who's a great director, makes me very hopeful on the Aquaman movie coming up. And I'm definitely looking forward to see Jason Momoa as Aquaman. There's not really much to say about him, honestly. I mean, from the movie when I saw it, I took him as, like, almost a one-liner type person. And he does that. He definitely does that. He has some very funny lines, especially in one scene in particular when he's with all of them, talking about how they might die in a way. But it's a really funny scene, and I can't emphasize enough that he's done a great job with this character as well, and I can't wait to see Aquaman's movie in the future as well. Now, finally, we have Cyborg, played by Ray Fisher. Other than Aquaman, I wasn't really looking forward to seeing Cyborg in a movie like this because, I don't know, to me, Cyborg, I felt, didn't really belong in the Justice League spectrum. Like, he's not really a founding member like in the other portrayals of Justice League. I was still curious to see how they could pull off Cyborg, and to tell you the truth, they honestly did a really good job with Cyborg here as well. Like, I was really impressed with his acting range and his emotion. In fact, I actually think they gave him most of the emotion and range to Cyborg, which is surprising because he's a cyborg. But I was really surprised with Ray Fisher's portrayal here as Cyborg, and I was taken off guard because I wasn't really looking forward to this character at all. And I was really happy with it. Like, I was really, really happy with how they portrayed him. And yeah, I think he did a marvelous job with it. And Cyborg is a character that I know from Teen Titans mostly. He was cool in Teen Titans, don't get me wrong, but I felt it weird when he was announced to be in the Justice League movie. But now I'm really happy that he is in Justice League because I thought his character was actually portrayed very well. With that said, though, that also leads to some negatives with the movie I had here. So what I got mostly out of the way was the positives here. Now let's get into the negatives that I had with the movie. Speaking of Cyborg, not with Ray Fisher or the acting performance in particular, but the CGI on Cyborg was a bit distracting in some ways. Like, I didn't find it all terrible. Like, it didn't take me out of the movie a lot, but there were very noticeable scenes with the CGI on Cyborg that felt a little plastically. It felt like fake in a way. Like, most of the time I was impressed with CGI on Cyborg, but there are some instances where I was like, that looks a little off. Like, and that actually leads to another CGI character in this movie, Stefan Wolfe. Stefan Wolfe, as a villain, I also didn't find him particularly interesting. Like, I understand that he was pretty much there to like do a take over the world type situation as usual, but other than that, like, I wasn't really like a big fan of how they did him in this movie. So in that sense, I wasn't really thinking he was the big bad villain he is. Like, I didn't find him interesting. He almost reminded me of Malekith in Thor: The Dark World. At least Stefan Wolfe has some good action sequences in it. Because honestly, if we wanted to be honest, I don't remember Malekith doing anything in Thor: The Dark World. Honestly, that whole movie was just forgettable in my viewpoint. But with that said, Stephen Wolf, not a great villain, and also his CGI was a bit distracting in a way. I thought also looked a little too fake. He was just there pretty much to upset the Justice League members and stuff like that, and I understand that it's always going to be like that with some villains, but I just didn't find him that interesting. In fact, they reminded me of some Marvel villains that I didn't really like as well. But the main focus, I feel like, with this movie in particular is the team itself with the Justice League. I think with the movie as a whole, I do think it was a very great portrayal with these characters, and I do think that there could be some improvements upon. Like, I do think it was a bit weirdly edited in a way. Like, just like this review, honestly, you'll probably see a bunch of pictures just flashing forward and flashing back. But, like, I just thought some things were a little rushed in this movie. I felt, especially in the introductions for Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash, like, it kind of went a little too fast in a way. But it did, like, hurt it enough to make me like it a lot. I absolutely enjoyed Justice League. I thought it was a fun time at the movies. Everybody in their portrayal of these characters is great. This is a completely fun popcorn movie that I definitely appreciate. The more I think about it, I might even see it again this weekend just to recuperate my thoughts on it. But yeah, Justice League in particular was great, and I can't say anything more about it. Like, I honestly was pleasantly surprised at this movie. If I had to give it a rating scale out of 10, in my opinion, I would probably go with an 8 out of 10. Like I said, it wasn't perfect, and there were some things that could be improved upon, but this definitely gives me hope in the future for DC, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next. It made me very happy throughout, and it's just all around a fun time at the movies, and I can't wait to see more of what these characters can do in the future for DC Universe. Also, definitely stay after the credits. To those who are seeing it, you will not regret it at all. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing your comments on it. You could subscribe to the One Take Podcast channel if you'd like. I sometimes upload new episodes of my podcast. Maybe I'll do even more reviews. Definitely I'll have a better setup than this though, because I'm streaming off OBS right now. And I'll definitely have a script in a way, because I feel like I kind of rushed this out because I really want to give my thoughts on it as soon as possible. I just couldn't do it now because the review embargo was until Tuesday 11:50, and I had to wait pretty much to get this review out, but I'm happy it's getting out there, and sorry for the weird edits I had with the pictures and all that, but hopefully I can get that better set up in the future reviews I have in this channel. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe on the channel, and thanks for watching, guys. See ya.